Welcome to Stolen Message, a thrilling series where ancient mysteries and dynamic partnerships unfold. In Riddles of Time, join Professor Enigma and the dashing young hieroglyphics interpreter, Dash, as they dive into a cryptic manuscript brimming with secrets. As their quest progresses, will their professional connection spark something more? Dive in and discover if sparks fly amid the twists and turns of their adventure. Chapter 1: Unveiled Intentions. Enigma's breath came in ragged gasps as she stumbled through the desert sands, the searing sun a relentless adversary. She could hear the pounding of her pursuers behind her, their shouts growing louder with each passing moment. The relic she had been sent to retrieve was clutched tightly in her hand, but the shadows of danger were closing in fast. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance, Saeed, the elder statesman, his silhouette cutting through the haze of the desert. With an urgent stride, he reached her side just as the ground beneath them began to rumble. Without a word, he grabbed her arm and pulled her towards a hidden alcove within the ancient ruins they had been exploring. As they took refuge, the hidden alcove's walls, covered in glowing hieroglyphics, seemed to pulse with a strange, otherworldly light. The symbols were unlike any Enigma had ever seen, a blend of ancient script and what seemed to be futuristic patterns that defied comprehension. Saeed's eyes darted across the carvings with a mix of recognition and concern. "This is no ordinary script," Saeed said, his voice edged with urgency. "These symbols belong to my nomadic ancestors, thought to be lost to time. They speak of travelers from the stars, and their message is hidden within these hieroglyphics." Enigma, her heart pounding with adrenaline, watched as Saeed traced the symbols with practiced ease. Just as he began to decode the message, a loud crash echoed from the entrance of the ruins. Their pursuers had found them. Saeed turned to Enigma, his face a mask of determination. "We need to move now." With one last glance at the glowing hieroglyphics, Enigma followed Saeed out of the alcove. The desert storm had intensified, the wind howling as it whipped sand into their faces. Saeed led her through the treacherous landscape, each step taking them further from the danger that pursued them. As they reached the safety of a nearby ridge, Enigma glanced back at the ruins. The entrance had collapsed, the hidden symbols obscured once more. The storm's fury seemed to have swallowed up their pursuers as well. Breathless and shaken, Enigma looked at Saeed. Why did they want that relic so badly? Saeed's gaze was somber. The relic is not just an artifact. It's a key to a message that transcends time and space. And we've barely scratched the surface of its secrets. Enigma's mind raced with the implications of Saeed's words. The relic, the mysterious symbols, and the near-death escape were all pieces of a larger puzzle, one that seemed to be unfolding with every step they took. As they made their way back to their camp, Enigma pulled out a photo she had taken amidst the chaos. Saeed holding the relic, the glowing hieroglyphics casting shadows in the storm's light. It was a moment of clarity amidst the chaos, a snapshot of the peril and mystery they had just narrowly escaped. Enigma stood at the window of her study, lost in thought as she gazed at the sprawling cityscape below. The setting sun bathed everything in a warm, golden hue, but her mind was elsewhere, reliving a moment from her past. A vivid memory resurfaced. Her younger self, perilously close to danger, with the elder statesman Saeed saving her from a crumbling structure deep in the desert. The image of Saeed clutching a glowing relic, their frantic escape from the storm, was etched into her memory, a snapshot of a mystery she had yet to fully unravel. Shaking off the recollection, Enigma turned back to her desk where the yellowed parchment awaited her scrutiny. The document was adorned with a dizzying array of symbols: Morse code, Sanskrit, hieroglyphics, a cryptic tapestry of ancient languages that seemed to call out to her. She had been summoned to her university office by an anonymous note, and now, as she examined the mysterious dossier, a creeping sense of unease settled in the pit of her stomach. The connection to her past was unmistakable. The relic Saeed had recovered, the enigmatic symbols that had haunted their journey, seemed to have resurfaced in this new puzzle. As she traced the symbols with her fingertips, the feeling of being on the brink of another revelation intensified. What secrets were hidden within this manuscript, and how were they linked to her perilous adventure with Saeed? Enigma's thoughts raced, her sense of dread mingling with a surge of anticipation. The clues were here, in her office, waiting to be deciphered. The mystery that began in the desert was drawing her back in, pulling her toward a new chapter in her quest for answers. Enigma's eyes narrowed as she stared at the yellowed parchment before her, its surface covered in a dizzying array of symbols. Morse code, Sanskrit, hieroglyphics, a veritable concert of ancient languages blended together in a cryptic tapestry. She had been summoned to her university office by an anonymous note, and now, as she examined the mysterious dossier, a creeping sense of unease settled in the pit of her stomach. Pressing her fingertips to her temples, Enigma attempted to quiet the flood of thoughts racing through her mind. This encoded text represented the culmination of her life's work, a chance to uncover the secrets of the past and vindicate her reputation after years of skepticism and dismissal from her academic peers. But the risks were palpable. The note's ominous warning still lingered in her memory, a stark reminder that some mysteries were best left undisturbed. Her gaze drifted to a framed photograph on her desk, a younger version of the elder Bedouin statesman, taken during her thesis years. He was shown in a desert setting, standing beside a youthful Enigma. His presence in the photo was a reminder of his guidance and mentorship, which had profoundly influenced her academic journey. Enigma had often reflected on his wisdom, particularly now, as she faced a puzzle that seemed intricately tied to his legacy. A sharp knock at the door jolted Enigma from her reverie. With a deep breath, she straightened her posture and called out, "Come in." The door swung open, and a young man with youthful hazel eyes tumbled into the room, nearly tripping over the threshold. "Professor Enigma, I got your message. I came as soon as I could." His eyes were alight with a mixture of enthusiasm and trepidation as he hurried to the desk, nearly knocking over a stack of books in his haste. Enigma watched the young man with a mixture of bemusement and exasperation. "You must be Dash, the hieroglyphics interpreter I requested." She gestured to the parchment spread out before her. "I'm afraid I have a rather pressing matter that requires your expertise." Dash's gaze darted from Enigma to the manuscript, his expression shifting from nervous excitement to open-mouthed awe. "Wow, this is incredible. Where did you find this?" "That's what I intend to find out." Enigma's tone was clipped, her patience already wearing thin. "Can you decipher it?" Dash's fingers hovered reverently over the scroll, tracing the intricate symbols with a childlike wonder. "I'll need some time to analyze the different elements, but this is unlike anything I've ever seen. The combination of Morse code, Sanskrit, and hieroglyphics, it's utterly fascinating." Enigma fought the urge to roll her eyes. "Time is of the essence, Dash. I need you to focus and give me your assessment. Can you crack this code or not?" Dash's enthusiasm dimmed slightly at Enigma's sharp tone, but he quickly recovered, straightening his posture and meeting her gaze with a newfound determination. "I can do it, Professor Enigma. Just give me a chance to—" "Good." Enigma cut him off, her fingers drumming impatiently on the desk. "Then we have no time to waste. I'll need you to work with me on this. Can I count on your full cooperation?" Dash's eyes widened, and he nodded vigorously. "Absolutely. Yes, of course. I'm honored to assist you, Professor Enigma. Just tell me what you need me to do." Enigma regarded him with a critical eye, silently weighing the merits of partnering with this young, overeager scholar. Dash's enthusiasm was admittedly endearing, but Enigma had little patience for such unbridled optimism. She had learned the hard way that trusting others often led to disappointment and heartbreak. Yet, as she studied the intricate symbols on the scroll, Enigma knew she had little choice. Her own expertise could only take her so far, and the stakes were too high to go it alone. With a resigned sigh, she gestured to the chair across from her. "Very well. Have a seat, Dash. Time is of the essence, and we have much work to do." Dash practically bounced into the chair, his gaze locked on the manuscript with rapt attention. Enigma steeled herself, mentally preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. Partnering with this eager yet clumsy young man was undoubtedly going to test the limits of her patience. But if he truly possessed the skills to decipher the enigmatic code, she would have to put aside her reservations and trust him, at least for now. As Dash began to meticulously examine the parchment, a bird fluttered past the window, catching Enigma's attention. At that moment, her cat leaped onto the desk, startling Dash and causing him to knock over the desk lamp. The lamp fell beside a blue-colored glass goblet on the desk, its light shining onto the scroll and revealing hidden hieroglyphics and desert symbols previously obscured. Enigma's eyes widened as she realized the implications. The new symbol seemed to suggest a connection to the desert ruins that the elder Bedouin statesman had once studied, a link she hadn't anticipated but was undeniably significant. She quickly averted her gaze, chastising herself for the momentary distraction. This was no time for such frivolous observations. She had a mystery to solve, a code to crack, and the fate of an ancient artifact to uncover. With a renewed sense of purpose, Enigma leaned forward, ready to confront the challenges that lay ahead, and to keep a wary eye on her new and rather unconventional partner. Chapter 2: Decoding Connections. Enigma ushered Dash into the dusty archives of the university library, her heels clicking against the worn hardwood floors. She had reluctantly agreed to partner with the young hieroglyphics interpreter, but now that they were face to face, the tension between them was palpable. "All right, let's get started," Enigma said, her tone clipped as she laid the ancient manuscript out on the table. "The code is a complex mix of Morse, Sanskrit, and hieroglyphics. We'll need to approach this methodically if we're going to make any progress." Dash nodded eagerly, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "I'm ready to dive in, Professor Enigma. Where do you want me to start?" Enigma suppressed a sigh. "Please just call me Enigma. And let's begin by examining the hieroglyphic elements first. Your expertise could be invaluable here." As Dash leaned over the manuscript, his eyes grew more intense, his fingertips hovering mere nanoseconds above the parchment as if guided by an unseen energy. Enigma couldn't help but notice the way his fingers danced across the parchment, his movements precise and focused. His face seemed to betray secrets he couldn't yet comprehend, driven by a passion for knowledge. Or perhaps something deeper, a lingering desire that hinted at more than just scholarly curiosity. "These hieroglyphics seem to be referencing an ancient temple," Dash murmured, tracing the symbols with his fingertip. "But the translation is incomplete. There are sections that are encoded, almost as if—" He paused, glancing up at Enigma. As if the scribes were trying to conceal something. Enigma felt a spark of interest ignite within her. "Conceal something, you say? That's an intriguing notion." She leaned in closer, her shoulder brushing against Dash's as they pored over the manuscript together. "What else can you make out from the hieroglyphics?" Dash swallowed hard, his cheeks flushing slightly at their proximity. "Well, there are references to a hidden chamber, and the symbols seem to indicate the location is somewhere in the Valley of the Kings." "The Valley of the Kings," Enigma repeated, her mind racing. "That's quite a lead. And if the manuscript is truly concealing a message, then we may be on the trail of something extraordinary." She glanced up, meeting Dash's gaze. There was a spark of determination in his eyes that she hadn't noticed before, and she felt a twinge of respect for his enthusiasm. I'd be happy to accompany you there," Dash offered, his voice slightly unsteady. "I mean, if you think my expertise could be useful." Enigma considered his proposal, weighing the potential benefits against the risk of working so closely with a relative stranger. But something about Dash's earnest demeanor made her hesitate to dismiss him outright. "Very well," she conceded. "I suppose an extra pair of eyes could be advantageous. But let's focus on deciphering the rest of this manuscript first. The Morse and Sanskrit elements will require a more delicate touch." As they delved deeper into the text, Enigma found herself reluctantly impressed by Dash's knowledge and problem-solving skills. He may have been clumsy and eager, but there was an intelligence and passion behind his actions that she couldn't ignore. "You know, you're not as incompetent as I initially thought," Enigma admitted, catching herself mid-sentence. She cleared her throat, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I mean, your expertise is proving quite useful." Dash grinned, his eyes crinkling at the corners. High praise coming from the renowned Professor Enigma. "I'll take it." Their banter continued as they worked, the tension gradually shifting into a cautious camaraderie. Enigma found herself drawn to Dash's enthusiasm, his infectious energy a welcome contrast to her own analytical nature. As they made progress on the decoding, Dash began to open up about his own background and aspirations. "I've always been fascinated by ancient texts and artifacts," he confessed. "Ever since I was a child, I dreamed of becoming an expert in ancient languages and uncovering hidden secrets." Enigma smiled faintly, finding his dedication admirable. "It seems we have more in common than I initially realized." Just then, the library's large window was bathed in a warm, golden light as the sun began to set. The last rays of daylight illuminated the manuscript, casting an ethereal glow across the text. Enigma's eyes were drawn to a subtle shimmer on the page, as if a hidden message had been revealed by the changing light. She glanced at Dash, who was momentarily distracted by the same phenomenon. "Do you see that?" Enigma asked, her voice tinged with excitement. Dash nodded, his eyes wide with wonder. "Yes, it's almost like the manuscript is alive. There are more symbols appearing, ones we hadn't seen before. Enigma's heart raced as she realized the significance. The manuscript was revealing new secrets, and their quest for answers had just taken a thrilling turn. With renewed determination, she and Dash continued their work, each discovery bringing them closer to uncovering the hidden truths of the past. As Enigma worked alongside Dash, she couldn't shake the feeling that the elder Bedouin statesman's influence was guiding their efforts. The photograph on her desk seemed to be a silent witness to their progress, a reminder of the mentorship and wisdom that had shaped her journey. Chapter 3: Shadows of Betrayal. Enigma gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles turning white as Dash fumbled with the navigation system in the passenger seat. The dusty roads of the ancient temple complex stretched out before them, the air thick with the echoes of a forgotten civilization. "Okay, I think we're getting close," Dash said, his brow furrowed in concentration. "According to the map, the entrance should be just up ahead." Enigma nodded, her mind racing. The partial translation of the encoded manuscript had led them here, to an archaeological site that promised to hold the key to unraveling the mystery. But the growing sense of unease coiled within her, a warning that something was not right. As they pulled up to the crumbling temple entrance, Enigma and Dash stepped out of the car, their eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. "Stay close to me," Enigma murmured, her voice low and steady. "We don't know what we're walking into." Dash nodded, the enthusiasm in his expression tempered by a newfound sense of caution. Together, they made their way through the entrance, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The air was thick with the scent of ancient stone and the musty aroma of decay. Enigma's gaze swept across the shadowy corridors, searching for any clues or hidden threats. Dash's eyes were wide, taking in the grandeur of the temple with a mixture of awe and trepidation. As they ventured deeper into the complex, a sudden movement in the shadows caught Enigma's attention. Her hand instinctively reached for the concealed firearm at her side, and Dash mirrored her actions, his own weapon drawn. "Who's there?" Enigma called out, her voice sharp and commanding. A figure emerged from the darkness, stepping into the dim light. Enigma's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the lean, angular features of Ravenous Slim, her longtime rival in the academic world. Well, if it isn't the great Enigma," Slim drawled, a smug grin spreading across his face. "I must say, I'm surprised to find you here. I thought you'd be too busy with your little hieroglyphics playmate to bother with this little expedition." Dash bristled at the jab, his grip tightening on his weapon. "What do you want, Slim?" he demanded, his voice laced with a surprising edge of confidence. Slim's eyes narrowed, and he took a step closer, his movements predatory. "What I want is the same thing you do, boy, to uncover the secrets of that ancient manuscript. And I won't let a couple of amateur archaeologists stand in my way." Enigma's mind raced, piecing together the implications of Slim's appearance. If he was here, then it was likely that your associate, Dr. Oblique, is involved in this as well, isn't he? She said, her gaze unwavering. Slim's smile widened, a glint of triumph in his eyes. "Ah, so you figured it out." "Yes, Oblique and I have been working together, a little artifact smuggling operation on the side. And we can't have you two meddling in our affairs." Dash's face paled, the realization dawning on him. "Enigma, your mentor is a criminal?" he whispered, his voice tinged with disbelief. Enigma's jaw tightened, the betrayal cutting deep. "It would seem so," she replied, her words clipped and controlled. Slim chuckled, relishing the moment. "Oh, this is priceless. The great Enigma, betrayed by the one she trusted most. How delicious." Dash stepped forward, his weapon raised. "We won't let you get away with this," he declared, his voice wavering only slightly. Slim's expression darkened, and he reached into his jacket, producing a sleek, compact handgun. "I'm afraid you won't have a choice in the matter," he said, his finger tightening on the trigger. Adrenaline surging, Enigma shoved Dash aside just as Slim fired, the bullet whizzing past them and lodging in the ancient wall. They dove for cover, heart pounding as the sound of gunfire echoed through the temple. Crouched behind a crumbling column, Enigma and Dash exchanged a desperate look. They were in over their heads, facing a dangerous adversary who was backed by Enigma's own mentor. But in that moment, the tension between them melted away, replaced by a steely determination to survive and uncover the truth. "We need to get out of here," Enigma whispered, her mind racing. "Can you provide a distraction?" Dash nodded, his expression resolute. "I'll do my best." As Slim's footsteps drew closer, Dash took a deep breath and stepped out from behind the column, firing a few well-aimed shots to draw Slim's attention. Enigma waited, poised to make her move, as Dash led Slim on a chase through the temple's winding corridors. Finding her opening, Enigma darted across the open space, her heart pounding in her ears. She reached the car and quickly started the engine, waiting anxiously for Dash to reappear. Moments later, he came sprinting around the corner, his face flushed with exertion. "Go, go, go," he yelled, practically flinging himself into the passenger seat. Enigma didn't need to be told twice. She slammed her foot on the accelerator, the tires kicking up a cloud of dust as they peeled out of the temple complex, leaving Slim and the shadows of betrayal behind. As they sped away, Dash turned to Enigma, his expression a mix of fear and disbelief. "Enigma, I can't believe Oblique is involved in all this. How could he do this to you?" Enigma's grip on the steering wheel tightened, her knuckles tensing white. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice trembling with a combination of anger and vulnerability. "But we're going to find out, and we're going to stop him." Dash reached out. His hand gently stroked her arm. "I'm with you, Enigma. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." In that moment, the walls Enigma had so carefully constructed began to crumble, and she allowed herself to feel the weight of this new betrayal. But as she glanced at Dash, a flicker of resolve ignited within her. They would uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The ancient temple faded in the rearview mirror, but the shadows of betrayal lingered, casting a pall over the perilous journey that lay ahead. Enigma didn't need to be told twice. She slammed her foot on the accelerator, the tires kicking up a cloud of dust as they peeled out of the temple complex, leaving Slim and the shadows of betrayal behind. The road stretched out before them, a ribbon of uncertainty in the fading light. The adrenaline from their narrow escape was still coursing through their veins, but the gravity of their situation pressed heavily upon them. As Enigma and Dash raced back to their base, their minds churned with the implications of their discovery. There was no time to lose. They needed to prepare for the next step in their dangerous quest. Chapter 4: Trust Falls. Enigma's heart pounded as she and Dash crept down the dimly lit corridor, their footsteps muffled by the plush carpeting. They were infiltrating Dr. Oblique's private office, risking everything to uncover the truth behind the ancient manuscript. The stakes had never been higher. Dash's presence beside her, his youthful energy almost electric in the tense atmosphere, was both a comfort and a distraction. His enthusiasm reminded Enigma of the early days of her own career, before she had learned the hard way how dangerous this world could be. But she couldn't afford to be distracted. Not now, not when every second counted. As they approached Oblique's office door, Enigma paused, her analytical mind racing. "All right, Dash," she whispered, her voice low and intense. "We need to be thorough but quick. Look for any files, ledgers, or correspondence that could link Oblique to the artifact smuggling ring. We can't leave anything behind." Dash nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. "Got it. I'll search the desk and cabinets while you check the computer." Enigma took a deep breath and turned the doorknob, slipping inside with Dash close on her heels. The room was eerily quiet, save for the faint hum of the desktop computer monitor casting a dim glow across the space. Enigma moved swiftly to the desk, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she began searching for incriminating evidence. The tension in the room was palpable, each keystroke echoing in the silence. Dash, meanwhile, pulled open the drawers, carefully rifling through the contents. His heart raced as he caught sight of a folder labeled confidential, exactly the kind of lead they were looking for. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled it out, the gravity of their mission weighing heavily on him. "Enigma," he hissed, gesturing to the folder. "I think I found something." Enigma glanced up, her eyes narrowing with focus. She nodded, signaling for him to continue. Dash carefully opened the folder, his breath catching in his throat as he scanned the documents inside. Detailed ledgers, shipment manifests, clandestine meeting notes. It was all there, a comprehensive paper trail implicating Oblique in the smuggling operation. "This is it," Dash breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. "We've got him." Enigma's eyes widened as she took in the evidence, her fingers pausing on the keyboard. She felt a surge of triumph, but it was quickly tempered by the knowledge that they were still deep in enemy territory. "Then we need to get this out of here, quickly. Grab anything else that looks relevant." Dash nodded, hastily stuffing the folder into his backpack. As he moved to the filing cabinet, a sudden noise from the hallway made them both freeze. Footsteps, voices. Enigma's heart pounded in her ears as she strained to listen. Panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced herself to remain calm, motioning for Dash to stay low and quiet. They crouched behind the desk, their bodies tense as the office door creaked open. Enigma's eyes darted around the room, searching for a hiding place or a means of escape. Her gaze fell on a small alcove near the window, and she grabbed Dash's arm, tugging him towards it. "Come on," she hissed, her voice barely audible. "We need to get out of sight." Dash followed without hesitation, his trust in Enigma overriding his natural clumsiness. They squeezed into the alcove, pressing their bodies close together as the intruder's footsteps drew nearer. Enigma held her breath, her heart pounding in her chest. Dash's proximity was both comforting and distracting, his warmth seeping through her clothes. She could feel the rapid rise and fall of his chest, and the faint scent of his cologne filled her senses. Suddenly, a shadow passed by the office door, and Enigma instinctively reached out, her hand closing around Dash's. He squeezed back, their fingers intertwining as they waited, suspended in a moment of breathless tension. The footsteps receded, and Enigma let out a shaky breath. They had been so close to being caught, too close for comfort. She turned to Dash, her eyes searching his face in the dim light. "Are you all right?" she whispered, her voice laced with concern. Dash nodded, his eyes wide with adrenaline. "Yeah, I think so." He paused, his gaze dropping to their entwined hands. "Thanks for having my back." Enigma felt a flutter in her chest at his words, and she couldn't help but marvel at how their partnership had evolved. Gone were the days of awkward tension and misunderstandings. In their place was a growing trust and understanding that Enigma had never expected to find. "Of course," she replied softly, giving his hand a gentle squeeze. "We're in this together." They held each other's gaze for a moment, the weight of their situation and their feelings palpable between them. Enigma felt a familiar pull, a longing to close the distance between them, and she shook her head slightly, mentally chastising herself. Now was not the time. Clearing her throat, Enigma shifted, peering cautiously out of the alcove. "I think the coast is clear. Let's get out of here and regroup." Dash nodded, reluctantly releasing her hand. As they slipped out of their hiding place, Enigma couldn't help but feel a sense of loss at the severed connection. But she knew they had more pressing concerns to attend to. They made their way quietly through the corridors, Enigma vigilantly searching for any sign of the intruder or other potential threats. Dash followed close behind, his mind racing with the implications of the evidence they had uncovered. The weight of their discovery was heavy on his shoulders, but there was also a sense of excitement, a thrill at having outmaneuvered their enemies. Once they reached the safety of the archives, Enigma turned to Dash, her expression grave. "We need to go through these documents thoroughly, but I think we've found the proof we've been looking for. Oblique is the mastermind behind the smuggling ring." Dash nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. "So, what's our next move? Confront him directly?" Enigma chewed on her lower lip, considering their options. "I'm not sure. Exposing him could be risky, and we need to be certain we have enough evidence to implicate him fully. We'll have to tread carefully." Dash's gaze softened, and he reached out, gently placing his hand on Enigma's arm. "Hey, we'll figure this out together." Enigma felt a surge of gratitude and affection for the young man before her. His unwavering support and growing confidence were a far cry from their initial meeting. She allowed herself a small smile, nodding in agreement. "Yes, together," she murmured, her eyes meeting his. In that moment, the world seemed to slow, and Enigma felt the barriers around her heart begin to crumble. She knew that with Dash by her side, she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Their moment was interrupted by the sound of a throat clearing, and Enigma whirled around to find Ravenous Slim standing in the doorway, a malicious grin on his face. Well, what do we have here?" he drawled, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "It seems the two of you have been busy uncovering secrets that don't belong to you." Enigma's mind raced as she assessed the situation. Slim was one of Oblique's most trusted enforcers, and his presence here could only mean one thing. They had been discovered. The elder statesman's warning echoed in her mind. "Trust no one, not even those closest to you." The elder statesman had hinted at the possibility of a mole within their ranks, and now, facing Slim, Enigma realized just how deep the conspiracy ran. She exchanged a quick glance with Dash, who had gone pale but remained composed. They were cornered, but Enigma's mind was already working on a plan. They had no choice but to press on and confront Oblique, even as the danger seemed more imminent than ever. With a calm she didn't entirely feel, Enigma stepped forward, her voice steady. "Slim, I'm surprised to see you here. We were just leaving." Slim's grin widened, his eyes narrowing. "Oh, I don't think you'll be going anywhere, darling. You see, Dr. Oblique has a very special interest in what you've been up to, and I'm here to make sure you deliver." Enigma hand inched towards protection. Dash did the same. They were determined not lose. Chapter 5. Confrontations and Confessions. Enigma's heart raced with a mix of fear and determination as she and Dash approached Dr. Oblique's office. The confrontation with Slim had sharpened their focus, and the evidence they carried felt heavier with each step. They knew the time had come to confront their mentor about his dark dealings, and the gravity of their mission loomed over them like a dark cloud. With every nerve on edge, they braced themselves for what lay ahead. Dash's hand trembled slightly as he reached for the door handle, his enthusiasm tempered by the gravity of the situation. Enigma placed a reassuring hand on his arm, feeling the tension in his muscles. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice low and steady. He met her gaze, determination burning in his eyes. "As ready as I'll ever be. Let's do this." They slipped into the dimly lit office, the air thick with a palpable sense of unease. Oblique sat behind his desk, his expression unreadable as he regarded them. "Enigma?" "Dusk. To what do I owe the pleasure of this visit?" Enigma took a deep breath and laid out their findings, her voice unwavering as she detailed Oblique's criminal activities. Dash chimed in, his youthful enthusiasm tempered by the gravity of the situation. "We have proof of your involvement in the smuggling ring, Dr. Oblique. We can't allow you to continue these illegal operations." Oblique's lips curled into a sardonic smile. "My dear students, you've certainly been busy. I must commend you on your investigative skills." He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "However, I'm afraid I can't simply allow you to walk away with this information." The air in the room seemed to grow heavier, the tension palpable. Enigma felt her heart pounding in her chest, but she refused to back down. "What are you saying, Oblique? Are you threatening us?" "Threatening?" Oblique chuckled darkly. "Not at all. I'm simply offering you a choice." He stood and moved around the desk, his gaze fixed on the two young scholars. "Join me, and you'll have a seat at the table. The resources, the knowledge, the power, all of it can be yours." Dash's brow furrowed in confusion. "You want us to be part of your smuggling operation? Are you insane?" Oblique's expression hardened. "Insane? No, my dear boy. I'm offering you a chance at greatness, at uncovering the secrets of the past that so many have tried to bury." He turned his attention to Enigma, his voice softening. "Enigma, you've always been my most promising student. Together, we could unlock the true power of these ancient artifacts." Enigma felt her stomach twist with a mixture of revulsion and temptation. Oblique had been her mentor, the one who had nurtured her passion for linguistics and archaeology. His words struck a chord deep within her, stirring up the insecurities that she had worked so hard to overcome. Before she could respond, a new voice cut through the tense silence. "How touching! A family reunion." Ravenous Slim strode into the office, a smug grin spreading across his face. "I must say, I'm impressed that you two managed to uncover Oblique's little side project. But I'm afraid your investigation ends here." Enigma felt Dash tense beside her, his hand reaching for the pocket where he had stashed their evidence. "We're not going anywhere, Slim. We're going to expose your entire operation." Slim's expression darkened, and he pulled a gun from his jacket. "I'm afraid I can't allow that." He leveled the weapon at Enigma and Dash, his finger tightening on the trigger. In a split second, Dash reacted, pushing Enigma to the side as the gun fired. A searing pain ripped through his shoulder, and he cried out in agony, collapsing to the floor. "Dash!" Enigma screamed, her heart racing as she rushed to his side. Blood was seeping through his shirt, and she frantically pressed her hands against the wound, trying to stem the flow. Oblique watched the scene unfold with a cold, detached expression. "Such a pity." He turned to Slim, his voice deceptively casual. "I believe it's time to dispose of our unwelcome guests." Slim's lips curled into a cruel smile as he took aim at Enigma. "Say goodbye, sweetheart." Enigma's mind raced. The gun was still pointed at her, and Dash was in no condition to defend them. She had to act fast. Just as Slim squeezed the trigger, she lunged at him, grabbing his wrist and forcing the gun upward. The shot went off, the bullet ricocheting off a metal file cabinet, missing them both by inches. Enigma and Slim grappled for control of the weapon, each struggling to gain the upper hand. Slim was stronger, but Enigma had the advantage of desperation. She twisted his wrist hard, making him yelp in pain, and the gun fell to the floor with a clatter. For a brief moment, they both froze, eyes locked on the fallen weapon. Slim dove for it, but Enigma was faster. She kicked it across the room, sending it skidding under Oblique's desk, out of reach. "You're going to pay for that," Slim growled, advancing on her with a murderous gleam in his eyes. But before he could reach her, Enigma hit the fire alarm, the shrill sound piercing through the office. The blaring alarm created chaos, and Slim and Oblique were momentarily distracted. Enigma took the opportunity to move quickly. She grabbed Dash and helped him to his feet, guiding him toward the open window. Slim, realizing the situation was deteriorating, tried to block their escape, but Enigma and Dash managed to climb out of the window and drop down to the street below. They sprinted away from the office, the sound of the fire alarm and the distant wail of approaching sirens covering their retreat. As they reached a safe distance, Enigma glanced back, her heart still pounding. The immediate danger had passed, but their ordeal was far from over. They had escaped Oblique and Slim, but the manuscript and their quest were still ahead of them. With Dash injured but alive, Enigma knew they had to regroup and continue their mission. They made their way back to the university library, where they could tend to Dash's wound and plan their next move. As they entered the quiet, secluded space, Enigma's resolve hardened. She would not rest until the truth was uncovered and justice was served. Chapter 6. The Final Stand. Enigma paced the library floor, her mind racing as she tried to piece together the events of the past few hours. Dash was resting on one of the library's plush chairs, a makeshift bandage wrapped around his shoulder wound. The sight of him in pain only fueled her determination to see this through. She knew their confrontation with Oblique and Slim had been only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead. "Are you sure you're okay?" Enigma asked, her voice laced with concern as she adjusted the bandage on Dash's shoulder. Dash gave her a pained smile. "I'll be fine. Just need to catch my breath. But we can't let what happened slow us down." Enigma nodded, her eyes scanning the rows of ancient manuscripts and artifacts in the library. The clues they needed were somewhere in these texts, and time was running out. The manuscript Oblique had tried to keep hidden was their key to uncovering the full extent of his smuggling operations. Just then, the library doors creaked open, and Enigma's heart leapt as she saw a familiar figure step inside. It was Lucian, looking determined and slightly out of breath. "Lucian!" Enigma called out, relief flooding her voice. "We could use your help." Lucian made his way over to them, his expression a mix of concern and resolve. "I heard about the commotion. Security detained Slim and Oblique, but I was worried about you too." "How's Dash?" "Wounded but alive," Enigma replied. "We need to focus on deciphering the manuscript. It's our only chance to put an end to Oblique's operation for good." Lucian nodded, glancing at Dash before turning his attention to the pile of manuscripts on the table. "Let's get to work. We don't have much time." The three of them worked in tense silence, each focused on their task. Enigma and Lucian pored over the manuscripts, deciphering the complex symbols and hidden messages that would lead them to the truth. Dash, though injured, offered his insights when he could, his mind sharp despite his pain. Hours passed as they worked tirelessly. The weight of their mission pressed heavily on Enigma's shoulders, but the thought of stopping Oblique and Slim's operation kept her going. Every deciphered passage brought them closer to understanding the full extent of the smuggling ring and its impact on their world. Finally, as dawn began to break, Enigma uncovered a crucial piece of information. "Here it is," she said, pointing to a passage in one of the manuscripts. "This section details the location of Oblique's secret warehouse, where he stored the artifacts." Lucian leaned in to examine the text. "If we can get to that warehouse, we can gather enough evidence to bring down the entire operation." Enigma nodded, her resolve hardening. "Let's not waste any time. We need to get there before it's too late." The three of them gathered their supplies and made their way to the warehouse's location, following the directions from the manuscript. The sky was still dim as they approached the warehouse, its imposing structure casting long shadows in the early morning light. As they neared the entrance, Enigma's heart pounded in her chest. This was it, the final confrontation. The warehouse was heavily guarded, but Enigma, Dash, and Lucian had come too far to turn back now. They managed to slip past the guards and enter the warehouse, their footsteps echoing through the cavernous space. Inside, they found crates and containers filled with the stolen artifacts, evidence of Oblique's illicit operation. "This is it," Lucian said, his voice filled with a mix of awe and determination. "We need to gather as much evidence as we can." Enigma and Dash worked quickly, photographing the artifacts and documenting the evidence. As they moved through the warehouse, they heard the distant sound of approaching sirens. It seemed that their actions had not gone unnoticed. "We need to get out of here," Enigma urged, her voice urgent. "The authorities will be here soon." With their evidence secured, the trio made their escape just as the first police vehicles arrived. They emerged from the warehouse and blended into the early morning crowd, their hearts still racing from the adrenaline of the past few hours. As they regrouped at a safe distance, Enigma felt a surge of relief and accomplishment. They had managed to expose Oblique's operation and secure the evidence needed to bring him and Slim to justice. "We did it," Dash said, his voice filled with exhaustion and satisfaction. "It's over." Enigma nodded, her eyes reflecting both fatigue and triumph. "It's not over yet. We still have to ensure the evidence reaches the right hands and that everything is properly handled." Lucian placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll make sure of it. For now, let's get some rest. We've earned it." As they made their way back to the university, Enigma allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The challenges they had faced and the dangers they had overcome had only strengthened her resolve. The manuscript and the artifacts had revealed their secrets, and she knew their journey was far from over. With a renewed sense of purpose, Enigma prepared herself for the next phase of their quest. The fight for justice and the pursuit of knowledge would continue, and she was ready to face whatever came next. That concludes Riddles of Time from the series Stolen Message. As Enigma and Dash walked away from the ancient ruins, their hearts full of hope and their bonds stronger than ever, the echoes of their adventure whispered of more mysteries yet to unfold. The manuscript's message had transformed their lives, but their journey is far from over. Join them as they continue to uncover hidden truths and face new challenges in the thrilling world of Stolen Message. Connect now and dive into fresh stories daily. Don't miss out on the next chapter of their adventure. Subscribe and stay tuned for the next installment of our series. Coming next, The Relic of Shadows. In the second story of the Stolen Message series, Enigma and Dash are drawn into a new paradox that tests their skills and their bond. As they follow clues leading to a legendary relic with mysterious powers, they must navigate treacherous alliances and unravel deeper secrets. With danger lurking around every corner and their trust in each other growing ever more vital, will they uncover the truth before it's too late? Subscribe now to be the first to experience the twists and turns of the Relic of Shadows. Don't miss out on the excitement. Hit that notification bell and join us for the next thrilling adventure.